Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Magwa. Nigeria has not been able to generate up to 4,000 megawatts of electricity since the national grid shut down in the middle of May 2021. The ripple effect this has had on businesses and national productivity in general is unbelievable, as residents of Abuja groan from the pain of the darkness. But we'll get to that shortly. First, we take you through the major activities making the news from Nigeria's seat of power.
President Muhammadu Buhari has stressed the need for synergy among security agencies as he reiterates that there is a lot of pressure on security in the country. The president made this known while engaging with the newly appointed Chief of Army Staff, Major General Farouk Yahaya, whom he received alongside the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, and the Minister of Defense, General Bashir Magashi. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari presided over an Emergency Security Council meeting seeking to find lasting solution to the security challenges in the country. Although details of the meeting was not made public, there are indications that the conversation may have centered around issues of banditry, kidnapping, insurgency in the northeast, and the unrest in the southeast region. In the meantime, the president also met with members of the Nigerian Interreligious Council, led by the Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence Alhaji Muhammad Sa'ad Abubakar, and the president of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Reverend Samson Ayokunle. In a statement issued after the meeting, the president reiterated his position on devolving more powers to the people.
On the contentious issue of restructuring or true federalism, or devolution of powers. Like you all know, this is a constitutional matter with which only the National Assembly can deal. I remain an apologetic believer in devolving power to the people, and that is why I signed the executive order granting autonomy to state legislature and judiciary. Unfortunately, this was met with some resistance at the state level and led to a more than 2 months strike action that has caused the country a lot of pain. I must confess that I am more pained than anyone can imagine with the ongoing security challenges because, like you noted during your meeting, they have increased the hunger, pain, and anger in the land.
Within the week, the president paid a state visit to Lagos. While in the commercial capital of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari launched the Integrated National Security and Waterways Protection Infrastructure. He also commissioned the Lagos-Ibadan Standard Gauge Rail Project, which marked the commencement of its full commercial operation. The president also commissioned patrol vehicles and security equipment donated to the Nigeria Police by the Lagos State government. The president also received another locally made innovation. This time, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Mr. Adeniyi Adebayo, presented 12 made-in-Nigeria cell phones to President Buhari.
That was made by the Model Skills Training Center of the Industrial Training Fund. It's no different from any other mobile phone. They're trying to mass produce it. This is the beginning. This is the first one that they have made. I'm sure they will go on to try to see what they can do with regards to charging without having to use conventional power sources.
The Federal Executive Council has approved 895.84 billion naira as the 2021 draft supplementary appropriation bill for military hardware procurement and COVID-19. The Minister of Finance, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, disclosed that 83.56 billion naira of the aggregate sum would be deployed to the COVID-19 vaccine program, covering 30 million vaccines from Johnson & Johnson and other logistics costs. The federal government says it would restore Twitter operation in Nigeria if the platform would be used responsibly by the citizens. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Jeffrey Oyama, relayed this condition at a meeting with the envoys from the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, the European Union and the Republic of Ireland, who had issued a joint statement condemning the indefinite suspension of the microblogging site in Nigeria. Meanwhile, the federal government says that the microblogging site, Twitter, has reached out to it for dialogue. The Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, announced this after the Federal Executive Council meeting. He says the ban has so far been effective.
I think I made it clear, even when I issued a statement on Friday, we banned it, Twitter, because of it has become the platform of choice for separatists to promote their agenda. We made it clear. Number two, if they say the ban is not effective, how come they say that they are losing billions of naira every day? How come? And if the ban is not effective, how come that Twitter is reaching out to us now?
Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State has called out leaders and political office holders who are not speaking out against the insecurity crisis in the country. Addressing State House correspondents after a meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari, Governor Uzodinma suggested that those officers and politicians who have served the country in various capacities in the past and have kept mum on the issues are passively contributing to the crisis and therefore have questions to answer.
Welcome back. Recently, the acting managing director of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, Engineer Sule Abdulaziz, announced that Nigeria is in talks with 4 West African countries to sell unused electricity to them through a planned $570 million North Core power transmission line. That is 875 kilometers, 330 kilovolts North Core transmission line from Nigeria through Niger Republic, Togo, Benin, and Burkina Faso. All Nigerians heard when this was announced was, how are we giving what we do not have? The blame game in the electricity value chain is now legendary, and Nigerians are tired of it. All they want to see is constant power supply. Residents of Lugbe, for instance, have been suffering under the weight of poor infrastructure for years. And now, almost zero power supply is breaking their back. Lugbe, one of the more affordable districts in the nation's capital, is about 15 minutes away from the city center. It is one of Abuja's oldest districts. Many people searching for greener pastures in Abuja make their way to Lugbe, mostly because of how affordable it is to get a house here. This massive migration of people into Lugbe has put a strain on its infrastructure, as can be seen in its many bad roads. The dilapidation of Lugbe's overwhelmed infrastructure is cause for concern among its ever-growing residents, as power supply has become almost extinct in the district. The sound of generators filled the air of Lugbe's federal housing estate with unease and dangerous fumes. These generators run for days as power supply worsens, taking a toll on the health and finances of residents and businesses. This corner shop in the federal housing estate has not seen electricity in the last 1 month.
Today, Wednesday, is complete 1 month that we don't have light here. And they've not given us any reason. Even as I yesterday, we went there as a task force chairman on this area. I talked to them. They are just telling us they are on the issue. They are on the issue. Why we don't even have any solution? Even I was supposed to settle my landlord last week. Because of this light issue, I can't be able. I have to plead him to exercise patience for me. So it really affects the business. When you are, as I'm retouching this now, I'm supposed to collect maybe 500 or 600 naira. At the end of the day, you waste not less than 2 liters on it, which is how much? It's almost 500 naira. Then how much do I get in a day?
In this area, it's actually used to be a general thing like federal housing, no lights. But with time, we find out that sometimes the federal housing lights will be okay. But this particular corner shop becomes an issue with transformer. As in, they have this basic problem with transformer. Like sometimes you have to go around to meet the NEPA people, like there's no lights. And they'll tell you that you have to do a contribution, kind of. So sometimes we'll go shop to shops to collect some amount of money to be able to fix the transformer that is actually supposed to be fixed by the government. But we don't seem to get it. And once a fuse goes off, you will see, like, my house is not too far from here. Sometimes they will have lights. But this same corner shop, this same behind, will not have lights.
Small business owners are worst hit by the Lugbe blackout.
This shop has been here for the past 7 years now, going to 8 years. As you can see, there are 5 seats in the salon here, but we're only left with 2 people now because the business is so bad and they have left. And what is affecting the business is the light issue and the economy as well. So when people turn off, the business will be good. Then even the effect of the NEPA not giving us light, we can manage. But irrespective of the fact that there is no NEPA light and the little one you're getting, it's not really helping out.
The light is so epileptic that we don't even know what to say again. It comes and it goes at, I don't know. Like minimum I spend every day on fuel is minimum is 3,000. Minimum. If the epileptic lights come and maybe sustain us for another 2-3 hours and goes, then we'll have to refuel again and start all over from where we stop. So the thing is not funny at all. We are not enjoying it.
For over 2 weeks now, we have been suffering for light issue here, and it's really affecting the business a lot. We are having more than enough shortage around. We run, for me to power my gen daily, I have to run almost 4 gallons.
Each estate in Lugbe has its peculiar power supply issue. Residents of the old redeemed estate in Lugbe have complained about this transformer for months. They say it is poorly managed by the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, insufficient for the residents, and is a disaster waiting to happen even when it manages to work.
The maintenance culture is zero. Because if you're to carry out, for equipment big like this, there should be a kind of preventive maintenance on it. And as you can see, I don't even know how the technicians or the engineers that manage this, how they have the courage to go into this. Because if you look at the feeder panel, it's totally, it should even be taken out and a new one installed. Probably all thanks to their poor way of maintaining it. And if you look at the terminals on the transformer and everything, they are poorly terminated, not properly screwed. So when you have power, sometimes you see flickerings of voltage and everything here, sparks and everything. And before you know it, the transformer shuts down. Then you have to start calling them. Sometimes you don't see them a day, 2 days, they come at will. And it's the same, this state at which you have the feeder panel, the transformer, it cuts across the whole federal housing. So as we are experiencing it here, other parts of federal housing, they are experiencing the same thing. So it's just totally sad.
What can they do? One man's meat is another man's poison in Lugbe. Generator repairers are seeing a boost in their business thanks to the poor power supply.
We thank God for everything. You understand? Once we come out to look for what our daily bread, you understand? Once we come out to look at our daily bread, we pray to God to give us work, more job. But we are not praying for bad. You understand? It's okay for me like that.
As the NEPA problem has continued, your business has been growing.
I thank God for that.
You thank God for what?
I thank God for that opportunity given to me. It's just for a while. It's not a permanent issue.
Residents of Lugbe have to deal with poor infrastructure facilitated by an explosion in population. They believe they've been ignored by the FCT administration. This power supply issue is placing an unbearable weight on the backs of these residents. They say this might just be the last straw to break the camel's back. My guest on the program is the General Manager in charge of Corporate Communications at the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, Mr. Oyebode Fadikpe. According to him, over 50% of the power generated from the power stations in Nigeria is lost during generation. And as a distribution part of the chain, there's not much that can be done about the darkness in Abuja if the generation companies keep dropping the ball. Mr. Fadikpe, welcome to Dateline Abuja.
Thank you very much for having me. Okay.
For the past 1 month,
yes,
the FCT has experienced a drastic drop in electricity. Some places worse than others. Can you confirm this?
Inevitably so. And I am confirming that. Inevitably so. And what's the reason for it? If you look at the trend or the trajectory since about May 12th, when we had a grid system outage, you will see that consistently the challenge with giving supply to customers has become so visible that there is apparent concern out there. We feel it too. Now, what has led to this? Substantially, there has been a drop in generation. What used to be available in the grid is no longer what is currently available.
Why?
Well, again, it's a function of several factors. Let's pin it down to one, gas. The fact that gas is also, because our power infrastructure in this country today is skewed in favor of gas-fired plants. We have hydro, we have gas-fired plants. Even the alternative sources are not visible in the grid yet. Those ones are what you call off-grid sources. But the grid itself is made up of hydro-fired plants and gas-fired plants. And I think it's about 75 to 25%. So you have just about slightly 25% of hydro plants and then the gas-fired plants. So when there is no gas, which is the main source of fuel for those plants, of course, the plants themselves cannot run on their own. They are, even if they are Father Christmas, they are not spirits. They need fuel to run, which is the gas. So once the gas is not there, then of course it means that the gas-fired plants cannot optimize their performance. And once there is a problem, it's like a relay race. I mean, athletics now, it's like a relay race. Once the first leg is bad, the end product will surely have some issues. So if the generating companies are not able to optimize their performance, it becomes absolutely impossible for discos that are the end point of the sub-value chain to be able to give electricity to customers. I know.
So you're blaming the Gencos?
I'm not going to do a blame game here. I'm not going to trade blames. Whatever the challenges are, the fact remains that all of us, because at the end of the day, when you move away from the Gencos and you come to transmission, you will have the challenge. They have their own challenges. When you leave the transmission companies and you come to discos, we also have our own challenges. We will not run away from that.
It's fine to have a blame game. I mean, my point is for Nigerians to understand.
Yes.
At least for people in the FCT, if they have the electricity to watch this program.
Yes.
For them to be able to say, it's the truth. It's been really poor.
Yes.
For them to be able to say, the reason why we do not have electricity is because our generating companies are not generating enough. Is that what the truth is?
No, there's no doubt about that. I mean, we can't run away from that fact. Yes, we don't want to engage in blame game, but the fact remains that generation has dropped from as much as 4,000 to, in some instances, 2,500 megawatts. So it's not a matter of blame game. Data don't lie.
Is it true
yes,
that we have not been able to generate at least 4,000 megawatts of electricity in Nigeria since May the 12th? Is this true?
There has been fluctuation. We move in and out, in and out. There has been fluctuation. For instance, in the early hours of the day, you have that quantum of energy. But as people begin to demand, as the day begins to grow older, as offices open, homes begin to take electricity, there's pressure on the system, and the system will not be able to cope. It will not ask you to drop some locations, which you call load shedding. There are instances where our Type 3 kV feeders have been knocked out, and there is absolutely nothing we can do because we are not even the ones in control. Type 3 kV feeders can be knocked off by transmission company. We are not the ones in control. We can only control our Type 3 kV feeders to some extent, but substantially our 11 kV feeders. And I'm sure customers will understand all of these terminologies I'm using.
So of these meager, less than 4,000 megawatts,
yes,
how much is given to the FCT?
Now, let's even start with what AEDC gets as its own allocation. I think as at 10:49 this morning, we're getting as low as 360 megawatts. Now, if we have to...
For the FCT?
Not FCT. The entire AEDC franchise.
So that's other states around
Exactly. So even if we divide that 360 by 4, you're saying that each location will get about 90 megawatts. Now, AEDC can conveniently carry up to 800 to 900 megawatts. Now, coming down, I mean, look at the difference between 900 to 360 megawatts. That's a huge difference.
It's not everybody in the FCT that is experiencing this lack of electricity. There are areas that have more electricity than others. Now, I'm no expert, but I think it has to do with feeders.
Well, yes.
So just so people can understand it, because someone that is living in Durumi has been experiencing power supply for the past 3 weeks.
Yes.
But in Wuye, it's not so bad.
Okay.
Explain to people the modalities. How do you distribute, you know, this electricity across the FCT?
Now, what you call a feeder, I mean, for mothers now, you take your feeder and you feed your baby. I mean, so I'm just using that very close example so that you can see exactly what we call a feeder. But a feeder essentially is a line carrying electricity from location A to location B. So feeding a particular area or a particular group of customers, as it were. Now, in terms of why is it that Durumi will have less amount of electricity than a place like we first and foremost.
I use those two places because they're next to each other. So it's visible. You can tell that there's power supply in Wuye if you live in Durumi.
Let me also use the locations you have identified for the purpose of this explanation. I know clearly, and I stand to be corrected, that the population in Wuye is not the population in Durumi. Durumi appears to be a high population, more densely populated than Wuye. Now, that's factor one. Two is the fact that because Durumi has a higher population, it will take more energy. Wuye will take less energy. Now, if, for instance, I am giving 20 megawatts to distribute or 30 megawatts to distribute, and Durumi itself is taking about 20 megawatts out of that 30 megawatts, of course, that's a high demand. Wuye may be taking about 15 megawatts. So what do I do in this circumstance? I push energy to Wuye because what Wuye needs to take is what I can accommodate immediately. If I have to take Durumi along, I will have to knock off quite a number of people at that material time, which the common balance for it on the street is load shedding. I will have to do load shedding. Otherwise, the entire feeder will go out and nobody will have electricity. And that would be wrong.
So this applies to most densely populated areas. So
it does.
Let's look at them. The places that have sent us messages complaining about their power supply.
Yes.
Apo.
Yes.
Gudu.
Yes.
Garki.
Yes.
Durumi.
Yes.
And Lugbe.
Now, you will see that all of those locations that you have identified are highly densely populated
and
areas.
Kubwa.
And
Kubwa
is about the biggest satellite town within FCT. But you have not mentioned Maitama, you have not mentioned Jabi, you have not mentioned Asokoro, you have not mentioned Utako, because population in those locations is low.
If you live in a densely populated part of Abuja, chances are that you spend so much on fuel to power your generators. And it's even worse if you run a business in these areas. The original target for Nigeria's power generation in 2020 was 40,000 megawatts. We are right now doing less than 4,000 megawatts. Let me put this in perspective for you. China in 2020 generated 7,623 terawatts. 1 million megawatts make 1 terawatt. So in megawatts, China in 2020 alone generated 7.6 billion megawatts. We must keep talking about this. But for now, it's a wrap on this week's episode of Dateline Abuja. Please let us know the happenings in your neighborhood using the social media handles showing right now on your screen. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kayla Magwa. See you next time.